Thanks to Skillshare for sponsoring today's video. So here's a weird win. De-aging effects have come so far that the lack of Uncanny Valley is actually creeping me out more than the Uncanny Valley would. My brain knows Michelle Pfeiffer doesn't look like that anymore, but she looks totally normal. Cold open that makes a scene we've already seen even more interesting. And for the record, it's the exact same scene, just dubbed over and expanded. But they didn't rework shots, just added more. Keeping that MCU continuity. Reed even asked to have the eyes look like Pfeiffer in the first one since she was his dream cast for the role. Wow, even Michael Douglas's de-aging has improved. He has a few more wrinkles than Michelle, so I wondered if they were keeping him in the dark on purpose, but it's definitely been refined. Also hugging.
Could your mother still be alive?
First, since she's Michelle Pfeiffer, I think she'll be alright. But second, we saw her in there, so yeah.
We're in. We're definitely close. You ready?
I'm ready, Daddy.
Back to a life of crime expectation subversion.
Tell me you brought the contact lens.
Yep.
Playtime gets a new spin when your dad's Ant-Man. You get to cosplay as Orb.
It can't walk, and if it swam up on shore and it battled a hawk, who's gonna win?
Sound debating skills. Coolest dad ever.
This must all seem like a bunch of confusing grown-up stuff to you, huh? And that was a violation of Article 16, Paragraph 3 of the Sokovia Accords.
I totally expected the gag to be condescending Fed talks down to in-the-know young girl who already knows all this stuff. Instead, they went for this.
In violation of said accords or any related statutes. Okay, sweetie?
Comedically complicated Wook's position.
Wow, you're really great with kids.
Thanks, I'm also a youth pastor.
But that's what you get when you cast Louis Hwang as your Fed. He can hang Hwang with Paul Rudd.
You need a warrant.
Actually, they don't.
Really? Wow.
That's treason for you. Also, Judy Greer is always a win. Divorce sucks. But this big, happy family kind of warms your heart, you know? Also hugging. Something tells me Paul Rudd legitimately learned close-up magic. I'm not saying Tom Sawyer wouldn't have been more Paul Ruddish, but the Partridge Family theme will do just fine. A great man did once say Neil Peart stands alone. I think that's it, John. More than even having your own movie made, your name and work is now permanently in the MCU. You know, when he leaned out the door, I thought, well, he kept up his workout for the last movie, and then, yeah, Paul Rudd's workout routine. There she is. I love that they again used the actual scene from Ant-Man. No trickery, children. This part was planned.
Tiny universe.
Ready? Paul Rudd was in Wanderlust with Jennifer Aniston, who was in Horrible Bosses with Donald Sutherland. Ha! Spooky is a good song to be playing for waking up somewhere strange after passing out. Fruit Loops hoarding ant. That is all.
Cap needed help.
Cap?
It's what we call him. If you're a friend.
Friendship. Okay, giant clothespin. That's a bread clip thingy? That's a giant AA Duracell or maybe a AAA, it's hard to tell. All kinds of small things enlarged that just blend in until you notice the giant Duracell logo. Can Elon Musk weigh in on this? That can't be stable. So there's no denying how cool having dog-sized worker ants help build your tech is, but you might be thinking, why not shrink everything down and work at their size? It's been alluded that the more shrinks you do, the crazier you get, so you can cycle through ants pretty quickly. Even enlarge some sugar cubes for them. Subtle, but I like that he puts the van right behind the SUV. That way you don't need to guess how far away from the curb it needs to be so it doesn't crack the sidewalk or pop a tire when you enlarge it. Ready? Easy nitpicky question. So they just like shrink the building and enlarge the car out in the open like this? The clear insinuation is that this is an abandoned part of the city. They found an empty parking lot and most likely designed the building to fit in it. Anyone who sees it shrink from afar is number one, used to seeing weird things since they live in the MCU, and number two, probably just assume they imagined it. But either way you roll it, it's awesome.
Can I have one of these?
No.
Is it still Chekhov's gun if you don't know it's a gun?
And yes, to planet before profit.
So your feelings about coal mining have changed then, Boyd?
But I'm afraid your money's gonna have to remain.
Listen, Sonny, this is gonna be so much easier on everybody if you just give me that component.
Hey, she gave him every chance when she could have just taken it all. Yep. Finally someone who knows how to use the tech.
Not my turn to the century chandelier!
Priorities. The way the camera seems to have trouble keeping Wasp in focus, and then she almost completely disappears during the rack focus. Such a great way of making her feel real and present, like she's actually being filmed. Now that's assault. Yep. Also, Blade Runner 2018? 2 in a row is always a mistake. Just continue that yup on this entire sequence where even though the laws of physics are a little iffy for the mini-heroes, they seem to take as much as makes sense into account for Wasp with things like having her skid across the salt.
It's a pleasure doing business with you, Sonny.
And she still leaves the payment. Let's just give them a round of applause for adapting a villain that has a totally different set of powers than the Ant Fam, but they sort of manifest similarly, like inventive ways to dodge punches and ingenious body slams. Ant-Man to the rescue. Brutal. I feel like that's brutal.
What, because of hats and sunglasses? It's not a disguise, Hank. We look like ourselves at a baseball game.
Thank you. Lampshading or not, hats and sunglasses are the ponytails and glasses hot girl transformation of the disguise world.
That stability becomes chaos. Unpredictable. Beautiful.
You sound like a guy who might enjoy someone who does things like this.
Do you guys just put the word quantum in front of everything?
Ooh la la, that's a ridiculous assertion. But I was thinking you should probably check on the microburst battery. Perfect comedic size. There's a very Tinkerbell thing going on here, and I don't hate it. Though I really like that Wasp's wings aren't organic.
Hey!
Oh man, Christoph Beck, you didn't think you could slip the Ant-Man main theme essentially MIDIified to reflect Scott's current size past me, did you? Also, I just simply love this track. And of course this was done practically. Oh man, that's good stuff.
I doubt Hank has ever mentioned my father, Elias Starr.
No egghead in the MCU, I guess. Well, now you're just showing off. Even if it is his son Langston, that's still a lot of effects.
They weaponized me.
Ooh, that was surprisingly brutal. I think it's actually a glitch in the sound that makes it sound like bones exploding. Chekhov's ants.
What if she's a completely different person?
Like, George Washington.
Lightening the mood. Some would call it levity. I'd probably call it brevity. Cure last time, Morrissey this time. Although it makes sense for this to be Luis's ringtone when you consider this.
Oh, my abuelita had a jukebox in the restaurant. Yeah, only played Morrissey.
The undercarriage wash. That's for cleaning off road salt.
Who are you and why you know so much about car wash protocol?
Fair question. There's a little continuity story being told with Ava's phasing that you might not have noticed. In this scene, she's in the home with her chamber and fairly calm. Therefore, she only slightly phases in and out. Compare that to the first time we see her getting into the chamber after fighting Ant-Man and Wasp and how she's almost shattering apart. Same for when everyone wakes up tied to the chairs. She's pretty held together until they escape after a little scuffle. Just some great continuity.
I want nothing to do with you. Look at my hairdo. I'm all business.
Oh, I was hoping Reed would use this montage-style storytelling again with Luis at the helm. Not disappointed by Evangeline Lilly pretending to be Louise, pretending to be a female version of himself. I mean, just the time and effort I'm sure it took to get the timing and lip-syncing right.
Come at night, little children sleepy tight.
I don't know, I think that's optimism. The best thing about how impressed everyone is by Scott's close-up magic is that he's Ant-Man. Paxton and presumably ex-SHIELD agent Wu have seen him shrink and grow, but card tricks are what everyone is impressed by?
How'd you do it, Scott? The card trick?
Seriously?
It's almost as if Scott saw something approaching and then she just took over his body. And Paul Rudd pretending to be possessed by Michelle Pfeiffer does not disappoint. Adding to the list, a volume knob and a paperclip and some other type of knob.
Clever girl.
What is she, a raptor? Actually, with this T-Rex pigeon outside the window, I'm starting to think someone's a Jurassic Park fan.
Like, I hate the way that you load the dishwasher.
Honesty. Caesar, you in there? Is this recognizable as the Muir Woods? Did you know that all the New Apes films have scenes in the Muir Woods?
I know, people isn't dumb.
Out of the mouths of babes. Gotta give Abby Forreston all the credit in the world for this scene. Acting across from Paul Rudd would be tough, though I expect he's also great at making people feel at ease.
Wait, who did you think?
Me.
You?
I'd be a great partner.
Stature or Stinger? Stature or Stinger? I know Stature comes first, but you never know what moniker will be chosen.
Oh, now that's my girl. All right, what's our plan?
To shrink that wall.
Looks load-bearing. 15 or 20 agents on the floor.
Roughly 5 times that in the building at large.
Not great odds.
She'd be so proud of you.
Such a nice father-daughter moment where they're on the ball, coming up with a plan on the fly while also admitting they're probably doomed at the same time. Like years of training and relationship building all expressed in one conversation of mutual respect. Something Hank didn't really give her in the first movie.
What about me?
The old ugly girl disguise with a side of Burt Macklin. Alright, I'll admit that this throws my minimal population justification out the window, but dire situations call for risk-taking. And again, these people have all seen some crazy stuff. Plus, like, half of them are gonna be dust soon anyway. Yeah, I totally buy that. Just get them to watch where it goes from above and then lead you back. Forget tile, just get bug arrow bugs.
What's up? You don't remember that beloved commercial?
See, now that's a joke that can't ever go out of style. You know, cool crap like this is so common now we take it for granted how awesome Ghost actually is. If you watch her, other versions of her are always doing something slightly different, not just trailing ahead or behind. Even here, one version is gritting her teeth. Vintage Ant-Man suit.
Really? This guy again?
Who? Lampshaded Spider-Man 3 problem. But when it's laughter from American Ultra, right? You forgot Walton was in that, didn't you?
Hang on.
And another killer track. I wouldn't say I was a huge Chris Beck fan. I mean, he was the composer for Frozen. Not like Let It Go, but the score, the background music, so that's saying something. But a lot of the time, filmmakers want the score to sort of blend in while still guiding the emotions of scenes, but sort of not be noticed, unless you're in like an Edgar Wright or James Gunn movie. But Christoph is so talented, this is the second time his score has stolen the scene, and all of a sudden I'm watching a Danny Boyle movie. But I'm also sort of waiting for Steve McQueen to whip around a corner in a Mustang.
It's filthy.
They got bigger problems.
Ha! Bigger problems. Good stuff, Hope. Good stuff. That's a chase scene. Seriously, they took the chase scene to a whole new level here. An inner space level.
You never said it was so beautiful, Scott.
Or terrifying.
Well, the 60s were fun, but now I'm paying for it.
Posthumously making me laugh, which I think is exactly what Stan would want. I don't even know what to say. You're responsible for all of this. I'm glad you got to see your work loved by millions of people and that your legacy will live on in each and every one of these films. Rest in peace, Stan Lee. And let's be honest, Stan Lee is always a win. Does anyone else hear Deadpool arguing with Wasp in their head? I just don't see how throwing a big Pez dispenser at motorcyclists would be very cinematic. Ooh, a little twinning action there. And so, okay, I know that just having the same powers as the twins, there would be some overlap. But I was also going to make a Neo restarting Trinity's heart joke here.
You're not going to reach into my chest and crush my heart, are you?
So, Jurassic Park and Matrix fan, Mr. Reed? Again, just examples of such different powers with similar useful outcomes. Oof, that's a brutal punch played for laughs. Yup, how is the Wasp this cool? Even the bad guys aren't so bad that they just run Wasp over. Everyone's so nice in this movie. We all take jabs at the coffee shop authors, but they're so prolific, someone has to be offended. Or do you guys get that it's like a meme at this point? I personally can't imagine choosing to work in public, but I wouldn't knock anyone for it. Though I'll laugh at them being so consumed with their next billion-dollar Twilight fanfiction machine that they miss a giant tearing up the pavement outside their window. But again, just par for the course in the MCU. There she is again. It's like her silhouette is forever imprinted on the edge of the quantum realm. Ugh, really gets you to feel that probable nausea from the sensory cutoff.
Oh, that's badass.
Yeah, man, look, if everyone is just gonna start calling everyone badass, Luis, you wanna do this job? Badass good girl. Let's just give the continuity checker some credit here for Birch's windshield still being smashed from when Wasp landed on it.
Come on, man! Not cool! Murderers! Hi, sorry! Hi!
Yep.
It's me.
Hugging and love and all the nice feelings that come with being reunited after decades. Also, stopping your husband from going completely insane.
Adaptation is part of it, but some of it is evolution.
This kind of evolution? Giant man named. Right, because she can just walk through the walls to the middle. No risk to her. Love. Also, Hope to the rescue. Teamwork. You know, Ant-Man and the Wasp, like A&W root beer. Ingenuity and great instincts from Scott.
So we apprehended them. For you. You're welcome.
Generosity, yes, nailed it.
Magic.
The word you're looking for is misdirection.
I've hurt people, but you haven't. Go, please.
I'm not leaving you.
Even when the bad guys have a heartfelt moment, it gets you. Also hugging. So, here's the thing. Maybe the most optimistic movie guy on the internet has a little bit of a bias. Everyone take notes. We don't need familial conflict in addition to narrative conflict. We'll be okay with everyone just being happy and loving each other. Characters don't need to hit rock bottom in every story. I can't believe I wrote this much text to yell like this. Yeah. Seriously, it's a cliche dodge and a welcome one to not have that moment when something goes wrong and his daughter and his ex-wife have to give him a sad, I'm disappointed speech as they leave the room. Also, more hugging! Hey, it's Hope's childhood home. Another inventive credit sequence with important scenes modeled out all diorama style. Look, I'm not saying that I really predicted anything specific, but I had not seen this movie when I said Ant-Man was going to have to do something from the quantum realm in order to fix the snap. I realize this is a bit of a tragic ending, but guys, Captain Marvel is coming. Also,
And don't get sucked into a time vortex.
time vortexes? Feeling good.
Have here the screenplay for Avengers 4, which I'm going to read to you.
Gotta give Reed props for pretending to give Avengers 4 secrets away in his commentary. Well, at least we know the MCU's busiest music insect, Antony Fantano, survived the snap, right? You did not just question mark teaser us. Oh, that's quality trolling. I feel like I'm constantly saying so-and-so is the best cast for such and such so often about comic book movies, but Paul Rudd, man. He's such an... And I actually coined this before talking about Po from Kung Fu Panda for those wondering where they've heard this before, but he's an unhero, not an anti-hero, just like he's a guy who wants to hang out with his kid and stay out of trouble. His greatest power coming into these films was his burglary quick thinking, which was top-notch, don't get me wrong, but that was all a setup anyway, so he just stumbled into this superhero life. I mean, the whole setup for this film is just poking fun at how he's on house arrest after Civil War. Cap was in Wakanda and the other real heroes were trapped in a Metal Island prison. He's such an everyman. And where would the doofus be without his more adept female counterpart?
I'm just gonna go to sleep now for 5 minutes.
And that's not a dig, it's not played like that at all. Scott isn't a bumbling idiot in this film. He has plenty of awesome moments. But Wasp has had years more training and experience. And I think the best thing they did for the sequel is give us what was merely teased in the first. Scott learns how to fight and use the suit, and he's fairly proficient by the end. But when you see Hope do it as the Wasp, it's a whole other level. She executes every maneuver perfectly. It's like she knows every edge size changes offer, and she uses them constantly to her advantage. And it's almost never reactive, it feels instinctual. Their fight scenes always lead to a ton of fun visuals. They all use their powers for really fun moments throughout. A lot involving shrinking and the hyperreal macro lens photography style. All the remote control car footage that's played for laughs intercut with the actually exhilarating sequences. The visuals in the quantum realm that are always in flux, ever changing and morphing, and Reed even talks about how they tried to create the footage as if they had a real camera having a hard time focusing because everything is so small rather than a full CG environment. And when you cast Paul Rudd, you're gonna have hilarious moments.
This seems right. Air feels chunky.
Oh no.
Randall Park was just icing on the cake getting to see them play off each other.
Did you want to grab dinner or something? I mean, because I'm free. I've seen worse things than vomit. Like a lot?
Yes!
Michael Pena is like an unstoppable force.
I'm the boss. Yeah.
Even if he isn't telling jokes, everything he says just makes you chuckle. They even gave Michael Douglas moments here and there.
Hiya, champ. How was school today?
Actually, for that matter, Evangeline Lilly even broke her stoic all-business facade to mess with Scott occasionally.
If only Cap could see you now.
Hilarious.
Something I've got to give Reed and the writers credit for is letting barely a single thing not be paid off. We talked about the close-up magic and misdirection use later.
Misdirection.
The Altoid tin, but even Cassie not having her soccer shoes is set up in the beginning.
What's the emergency?
I can't find my soccer shoes.
Did you pack your soccer shoes?
Yeah.
All right.
It's such a well-constructed story. That said, Ant-Man and the Wasp moves the actual plot forward barely one step in the first 45 minutes of the film, but you don't notice because of what else is going on. It's basically 3 gather side quest missions, but all are important parts of the movie because of the character development and introduction. Wasp goes to get the MacGuffin from Birch, which turns into a big fight where we get to see how formidable she is. Then, after Ghost steals the lab, they have to go on a multi-part fetch quest before they even begin moving the plot forward. But they learn about Ghost and Bill's connection, and it's a great part of the narrative. They do an exceptionally good job of keeping us interested without moving the story forward that much. I can't say for sure, so this is venturing into theory territory, but like I said, I thought the Infinity War solution would involve the quantum realm in some respect. Doesn't take a genius to think that. But whether parts of this were planned right from the beginning, not likely, or Feige, the Russos, and Peyton Reed just pulled this all together is so impressive. The quantum realm was set up in the first movie, Janet was shown there, and then they focused this entire movie around it, ending with Scott trapped there, potentially being shielded from the snap or just lucky. He's the only non-OG Avenger left standing, so it's something either way. Probably involving time travel. I'll just never get over how this universe has entangled itself while never sacrificing story in the process. You'll notice I'm ignoring all the stuff about set photos and casting for Avengers 4 because, honestly, I wish it didn't exist, or that I could opt out of knowing. I hate that it's so difficult to go into movies blind these days. The internet was a mistake? Nah, I'm good. But if you're wary of potential spoilers, be careful down in the comments. I'll ask that people throw spoilers tags on stuff, but that mostly eggs the trolls on to put ridiculous spoilers in all caps with no warning. Anyway, I can only moderate so much. I already pointed out that Hank and Hope's relationship is one of my favorite parts of the film, especially after being at each other's throats in the last film. You can see that Hank sees her as an equal partner and has finally let go of some of that fear. Father-daughter relationships in general are kind of a solid through line between Hank and Hope, Scott and Cassie, and even Bill and Ava. And each gets to be played out all the way. Each a good example of how families don't give up on each other, they forgive each other, they stick by each other. All good messages. A lot of really powerful and intelligent families in the Ant-Man world. I mean, even Cassie goes on to be a hero of her own. Whoa, literally every single one. OG Ant-Man, OG Wasp, new Ant-Man, new Wasp, Stature, Black Goliath, and Ghost. Must be nice to be surrounded by geniuses who know how to do a whole bunch of technical and engineering, physics-based stuff just 'cause. Well, good thing for the rest of us, there are classes we can take to learn all kinds of things. Ironically enough, today's sponsor Skillshare has everything you need to learn a new skill. In fact, Skillshare has an online learning community of over 20,000 classes from all of that stuff, but also business, design. You can even learn a new language. I didn't even know that. The courses that I end up spending the most time with are the ones under film production. You can learn everything from how to improve iPhone photography to video editing to cinematography in general. I'm currently doing a cinematography course from Dale McManus. I know a lot of you love when I talk about the technical filmmaking side of movies, so I'm always looking to expand my knowledge base, and this is a course I think you'd be interested in. Especially you budding vloggers and filmmakers I know I have in my audience. He goes into everything from lighting to camera movement to types of lenses to color grading and resolution and shot composition. This is by far the least expensive and easiest way to start learning new skills or fine-tuning the ones you already have. And you can get 2 free months with access to Skillshare's entire catalog if you go to skl.sh/CinemaWins2 and sign up today, or just click the link in the description down below.
You can do anything. You are the world's greatest grandma.